I'll feed anybody, but I'm not for everybody. My name is Chef Derek Green, and I find people that have turned their life's experiences into ingredients they use to feed others. We're redefining soul food. These people have turned their adversities into their advantages. This is the Sauce of Life show, and let's go.
Blessings.
Odero, welcome to the Sauce of Life. Brother, this
Blessings.
podcast is about people that have taken their life's experiences and turned those into ingredients that they use to feed others. It's what are the things that you've experienced that you now use to give back to other people? With that being said, Odero, please introduce yourself to the world.
Blessings, brother. Thank you. Well, Odero is the name that I go with, but in spiritual world, there are those that have been with me as Odi or nomadic Odero vibrations, because that's what you see on the social medias and stuff. Nomadic Odero vibrations, right? So that's my energy. Yeah, that's how I share the energy. But yes, Odero works. Blessings, brother. So maybe I should start a little bit of childhood. How did I get into this whole world of spirituality? And I know that we met under those circumstances. So maybe I should break that down. And maybe I should also identify that I'm just dropping out of the army as a captain, right? So that was something that we spoke about. And our program also helps take care of veterans,
Yes.
Yeah, so I come from more of a religious background. I was raised a Southern Baptist. My grandpa was a minister. At some point, as a kid, at about the age of 13, I heard about transcendental meditation. And, just like you hear about this stuff on the radio or something like that, and I talk to Grandpa, like, Grandpa, what is this? Because, church, Jesus Christ and all that. But then Grandpa says, listen, meditation was practiced by all the prophets of the Bible, most of them, like 40 days and 40 nights, you're fasting and meditating out in the desert. So that is really where my curiosity of meditation started. So at the age of 13, I got curious about it and actually started practicing meditation. Long story short, traveled around the world, maybe around 160 countries, really. But through that, I went through journeys of early life, being a youth minister, being involved in the church, but I also experienced other religions of the world, and through that journey of curiosity into religion and academics, of course, I really got deeper and deeper into spirituality, right? And so how did I get here? Because like I said, I have a religious background. I've personally been traveling that journey of spirituality and religiosity. And so I should say that through my travels around the world, I met some very, very good people. And I noticed that these people didn't have the same religion as me. They didn't believe in the same things that I believed in, but they were really great people. So I got curious. What makes other people nice, but they don't do the things that I thought you should do to be a nice person? In other words, practice a certain way. So I got curious into whether the practices that they were going through, whether it was a religion that they were going through. So I got curious through Buddhism, through Hinduism, through Islam. I got curious into the Mormon church. And, I went through all these religious beliefs and mostly Abrahamic religions, like Judaism, and studied all this. And I realized that the human being is seeking or has a common goal. And the most concern to most is really what happens after life. Through the pursuit of that, then people now, I realize that they're all pursuing literally the same thing. It's just the fates differ. But anyway, I went through certain enlightening experiences, like, for those that have been in the military, we have all these deployments that are coming, to Iraq, to Kuwait, to Afghanistan. And I also have some friends that went through certain journeys through these deployments and didn't come home right. But when I was out there, I was one of the few people that were actually meditating and were more into spirituality. And I realized that the impact of being out on these deployments was not as hard on me as it was in my battle buddies. So long story short, went and lived in Bali, Indonesia, was involved in, the spiritual, actually, we lived in Mexico, we did some stuff through our connections in India, but long story short, because I know we don't have a long time to go through almost 20 years of this stuff, during the pandemic, I was out then. I used to live in Bali, and I remember during the pandemic, it was 2019. I was out in Spain and Greece, and the pandemic was popping up, and we didn't know what was happening. So like, no, let's go to Mexico. So we went to Mexico, hanged out in Mexico, living there a little bit. But then the pandemic hit, and we had to come back home. We were stuck in New York because I might not talk much about this, but I'm also involved in fashion. So I was at FIT New York. We got selected as one of the top 25 brands in the world. And so we got selected for a program there. So when we went there, started talking about fashion, but also talking about wellness. So part of the plan is if we go back home, we're going to build this wellness program that we've been running around the world back home in California. But things didn't go the way we thought because the pandemic hit. Anyway, 6 months later, after all that mess, we came back home to Palm Springs. What we realized is that life had changed. There was more need of some form of spiritual healing or some form of anxiety reducing or some form of people getting depressed, people getting anxious of the uncertainty. So we started a small program here, which we call Island Tribe Wellness. And when we started, I personally wasn't so free to practice my spirituality and try to help people. I thought I could hire a few people to come together because I knew what the world needs. But what I realized through my meditation and my enlightenment, actually, that I needed to be involved. I needed to be involved because I knew my spirit was there, but I was not living to my full potential. In other words, I was feeling more the need of being there, but intrinsically, I had not accepted this journey for myself. I only knew of working with people individually, but not in groups. I had done some of this in Indonesia, in Bali, but I was always a recluse. But what I realized also that I didn't mention, I also learned that from my mom's side, I come from a lineage of healers. But because I lived this modern life, I never paid attention to it. So I knew that some of my ancestors, I came to find out some of my ancestors were actually healers, And so despite having that religious background, I also had a spiritual background in my bloodline. And that these visions that I started getting, I didn't know what they were. In other words, I feel a certain thing. When I say it, it happens to be something to somebody else. What I came to realize that I'd reached a certain point in my enlightenment where I was actually able to interpret energy. And this really became one of my enlightenments. And you have experienced part of this because this is how we met. We were in Beverly Hills, actually in Beverly Hills, in West Hollywood, and we had an experience. And you just happened to be someone who was passing by and you were part of it. And that's why actually we're talking today, right? So that energy that we shared on that day, it's something that reveals itself in me. Long story short, again, we started this program mostly to help veterans, but it moves from veterans to just everybody. And then from there, we realized there are so many people who are healthcare workers, like physicians, psychiatrists, surgeons, who are actually nurses, who are struggling through their life as healthcare workers, who are actually in the front line of COVID. So we came up with a program, which is Island Tribe Wellness, for those who can check online. So we have a program that is split into 4 different stages. So one, we have a wellness program that just simple things like yoga, Reiki, breath work, and stuff like that. For those who've never tried wellness, this is just their first time, they're curious, they want to try it. And then the second stage is for those that have been traveling a spiritual life. You might have tried ayahuasca, you've tried different types of plant medicine, psilocybin, but you feel like you're falling back and you want to reignite your spiritual journey. So we accommodate that too. And then we have another program that we call the Healers Healing. And these are healers, people who've been in the healing programs, physicians, nurses, yogis, Reiki, but you want to rejuvenate yourself. Technically, we are able to help you jumpstart or restart your journey. And then the last one is corporate wellness, where we invite corporations. We've had a few corporations come here in Palm Desert. We actually based, in Palm Springs. We're based in Palm Springs, Palm Desert area, if you know the valley. And we actually have these 4 programs running concurrently, right? And I know the question was the source of life. How did that past become the present? So I tried to compress it. But what I realized is that this is something I've been practicing, but I have it intrinsically within me. So I've been very shy to speak or have interviews, as you know, only our clients know much of me. I don't speak so much online because there's so much noise out there. You know, almost everyone knows something about this way of life, but I can say that this way of life is not a way of life that I was seeking for myself. I'm an academic. I'm a university professor, as you know. I teach MBA programs, so I'm actually an intellectual academic. I never followed this spiritual path, but what I realized, my religious foundation and this spiritual awakening through decades of my life had to be shared, because we realized that the more people came in, the more people got healing. And now some are coming back. Now we have a very big community actually in the country, and some people actually fly from out of the States, just from Canada, and as far as, you know, Asia, coming for this program now. But now we have people coming from all over. Actually, something I missed to say, part of, I helped design, or rather invent, a breathing technique, which we call RBMB, is restorative biohack meditative breathwork. I lead in this breathwork system, which is different from pranayama, is different from Wim Hof. This is a two-step breathing pattern which you have experienced, and it's a magical experience. So right now we are planning of giving back into the collective by starting a training program for breathwork technicians. So you could come to Palm Springs, have a weekend, get your certification, then go home, and you can recertify online, but you have to come to Palm Springs to go for the breathing techniques. I also didn't mention that I was in the Army Medical Command. I also have medical training, in addition to just the spiritual. So I really understand the body and the mind. I also, my pre-med background, I didn't speak of my education. Actually, my pre-med background was behavioral neuroscience, which is biopsych. So I studied the body and I studied the mind and the body. And so I've been also involved in behavioral sciences for some time. And in addition to other skills that I've gained through time. And maybe last but not least, we do consultations, which is executive consultations for people who are in leadership positions, because I teach executive leadership also, in addition to other things like global economics, which I teach in school. And this is because I have a background in diplomacy. I also have a graduate degree in diplomacy, so as a diplomat, international conflict resolution. So all my academic background and experiences and all this enlightenment has made me who I am and how much I'm giving back. I don't know if I've been talking for too long, but I try to compress years of knowledge and what I know and what I don't know into something that might make sense.
No, that's amazing, brother. You've given me so much to go off from here. And for the audience, you've established your authority in so many realms, whether you're talking about being an academic, being an actual practiced international diplomat, whether you're talking about in the realm of spirituality, religiosity, as you call it, like all of these things, being a combat veteran, just so many different ways that this interview can go. And I appreciate that you started with your young life, and how by age 13, your grandfather introduced you to this practice called meditation. I can appreciate that because I was also raised Southern Baptist, but in my community in Fort Pierce, Florida, things like meditation, I never heard the word meditate when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was in the military that I heard the word meditate. And if there's a lot of things that the practices that you're talking about that people around me would have called witchcraft or some other roots or voodoo or something like this, I want to share with the audience, before I ask this first question, I just want to share with the audience my experience with you. So I was there to actually promote my Waffles and Whatnot brand at a Pilates studio, and decided to sign up when I saw that this program was happening. And it was actually your energy and the young lady that you were with, that Angela, that made me go, okay, I want to see what this is about, and I want to experience this. Because my mind had been opened by Dr. Joe Dispenza at a retreat that I attended a couple months ago. I was open to this and wanting to see where this would go. To keep this succinct, I had a Black Panther level event or experience with your breath work and your meditation, whereby, man, you had me breathing this breathing up and breathing up. And I was visited by a woman. She was black, like pure black, like my shirt, but I could see her features and everything. And it reminded me of in the movie Black Panther, when he takes that herb and he goes to see the ancestors. And there was a peace and a calm as she walked me through whatever happened there. I don't remember everything and I don't want to make things up, but I do remember being in such a state of peace and gratitude and just saying, thank you for this. Like, truly, thank you. I'm going to be okay. And whatever aspect of my life where I was struggling, I knew that I was going to be okay. That's my experience with your breath work. Now, the first question that I want to ask you, brother, I often say in audiences that I am not a religious person, but I'm a deeply spiritual person. From you, coming from your background, religion and spirituality, what's the difference, if you can define that for the audience?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that, since I did mention those two realms. One, I should say that there's nothing wrong with being religious. And this is how I can simply say it. Religion is the belief of the most high energy. You can say God, Yahweh, Allah, depending on which faith you're in. So religion is a belief in a most high being beyond you. Spirituality, rather, religion is the most high being and the creator. Spirituality is the interconnectedness between those that have been created by their creator.
Beautiful. Thank you. I want to set the groundwork for people as we dive into this, because I'll ask you to expand on some of the things that helped you get to where you are in life now. Did I hear you correctly that you've traveled 160 countries?
Yes, just about that.
160 countries.
It's pretty much the world. Hardly any culture I haven't interacted with, and I'm also a linguist, so I love language. I was actually thinking, you know what, I should even go back, just study Spanish, because I speak Spanish, but it's street Spanish, right? So I'd like to speak it fluently. I speak some Italian, but again, it's almost street Italian. But I'm a linguist, so through travel, almost like an anthropological traveler, where I also dig into cultures. And don't lose your thought. Part of the reason that I've benefited from my travel is because my curiosity into spirituality, that I say is the interconnectedness, the relationship between those that have been created by the creator. I dig into indigenous cultures and learn their healing practices and how their ancestors held their heritage and culture of healing together. So anywhere I go, whether it's in Mexico, I've been a Mayan village, interacting with the people in the village, the holders, the bearers of culture and spiritual heritage of that culture. So that's what I do now globally. I don't just go to Paris. I've done the big city thing, but now I go to villages and small little places in different countries that we go to, whether it's Bali or whatever it is, to learn more about healing and how these cultures held their spiritual existence as a people.
Wow. I think you're actually one of the most important beings. And this isn't to inflate your ego or anything, but I think that you're one of the most important beings walking the planet right now, because I've often said to people that for me, Dr. Joe Dispenza is the intersection of religion and science, the way that he can explain prayer or meditation through scientific terms, so that if you come from a scientific background, now you can begin to understand religion a little bit more, or the spirituality. And if you come from that theological background, you can understand the science behind some of the things that you're doing even more. You add in a third component, which is culture, where you truly seek to understand the cultures as you go and the intricacies of these cultures. Has that always been a desire of yours? Because you are a consummate learner. If anybody's listening, you're constantly learning.
That is true. That has been an interest of mine, because definitely I'm speaking with a certain accent. So people are like, hey, where is this guy from? Anyway, my grandfather was an immigrant, so my parents, my background is in Africa. But even in Africa, my grandparents immigrated from a different part of Africa to a different part of Africa. You see, like from Southern Africa to East Africa, and started his life there. Then met my grandma, and who's my mom's mom, and then my dad's parents is also the same. So I come from a very dynamic background, and that's what makes my mannerisms and my behavior patterns a bit different, my sound. And so I'm already a cultured person since I was a child, and I was exposed to different cultures like Islam and Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism. I speak some Hindu. I've literally almost grown around the Hindu culture, which I understand very well. And so being brought up in this multicultural environment kind of it's been an advantage to me. In the beginning, it seemed like it's confusing, but now that I'm getting a bit older, I'm starting to realize the advantage of this, because I barely walk in a space that I can't connect with someone. There's something that we have to. Just this morning, I met a lady for the Philippines, and he was talking to me, and I said, "Kumusta ka, mabuti?" And he's like, "Wait a minute, how do you know that?" Then I have to explain to her, I lived in Asia, and I did. So it's just beautiful. I meet someone from Turkey, I say, "Marhaba." I say, "Oh my goodness." I meet someone from Greece, I say, "Evcharisto," they're like, "My goodness." So it's like speaking all this. Let me say it this way. Language, one, it's a means of connecting others. But if you don't understand it, it's noise. Because if someone speaks a different language around you and you don't understand it, some people get irritated. It's just because they can't make sense of the noise being sounded around them. But if you understand the need of actually understanding what the noise means, then suddenly you're connected. There's an interconnection. Language is energy. So that's why I'm so deep into culture, because that's what brings us together other than separate us. Most people always look at the differences between spiritual beings, but I tend to actually find the differences, bring it together, then immediately I find what brings us together. And usually there's more than bring people together than separate them, but we only look at what separates us,
Right. And unfortunately, currently we live in an environment where the media is more about demonstrating or highlighting what separates us than what brings us together. And that emphasizes why, again, your energy and what you're doing to the world or for the world is as important or is paramount. Man, so many different ways to go, but you just mentioned noise. I had a question, but it's like, you know what? Now you just mentioned noise, so let's just keep this conversation flowing there.
Yes.
Because as you were speaking, you're saying that if you understand a language, if you understand what's being spoken, if someone starts speaking Hebrew to you and you understand Hebrew, then you can have a conversation. But if not, it's just noise. Someone speaking Hebrew and Arabic, if you don't know the distinction between the two, again, it's just noise. Is that not the same thing when it comes to the spiritual journey that we're on, brother? That if we can't learn to recognize the voice of God or the voice of the creator, the entity, the ancestors, whomever it is that we feel is guiding our path, then aren't we just hearing noise or not learning to discern?
I can give you a good example. Again, you say Southern, but some of us really grew up in strong religious spaces. You go to church every day, or you go to the mosque every day. But if you walk from church, you go down the stairs, going home, and you see someone seeking help, water or food, and you pass them through, you failed to practice your spiritual responsibility. Not religious, because you already went to church. Because spirituality is the interconnectedness of what that has been created by the creator. If you have a dog and you don't treat your dog right, you fail in your spiritual responsibility, and you're still going to church, or you're going to the mosque, or you're going to the synagogue. You understand? So
Yes.
having a religious foundation adds more value, that creates a platform that can have your spiritual life even stronger. But some people try to separate these two. I'm either religious or I'm spiritual. But religiosity without spirituality is empty. Because faith and belief, you believe in what you don't know. You have faith in what you don't know. If I know you, Derek, I've met you before, brother, I don't have to have faith. Some people say, you don't have faith in me. If you're asking someone to have faith in you, it means they don't know you. We believe in a certain power that is out there, that is greater than us. That's why we have faith. If we knew it, we don't have to have faith.
I hope that people can rewind and hear the wisdom of what just came out of your mouth. This is the beauty of man, I'm so happy to have you on camera, that you grace us with this. And I understand that you don't do a lot of interviews, because in our conversations, Odie, I realized that you are just a walking encyclopedia in so many realms that can impact the lives of so many. You know, with everything that you've gone through in life, there's so many ways that you can give back and contribute. Does it ever get overly heavy for you or burdensome being this guru that you are?
Well, it's very interesting that you say that. So something, even as we're speaking here, I'm always very keen to stay in one lane, because sometimes I tend to drift into other things. So technically speaking, I could humbly say I have about 6 university degrees. You see, so when I speak to someone, I have to know which paradigm are we speaking at. Am I speaking as an artist or a scientist? But in this case, I've never looked at myself as a guru of some sort. People do give me such title. I was talking to one of my friends, Dishak, in India, and he said, you're a guru. You have to accept that. I'm saying, I'm not. I'm just a guide. I'm just a guide. I believe that people can heal themselves, and all they need is a guide. Certain people are blessed with the spirit. In my case, I continue to realize that I have the blessing of the spirit of translating energy into word and guiding. So I don't look at myself as a guru of some sort, because I also don't know this thing. I really don't know it. I can't claim it, but it just happens when I'm in a beautiful space like we were last time in Hollywood. So when we create that space, or like somewhere like now when we speak, I was already meditating and praying over this conversation. So anything that comes out of me is just off the spirit. So it's really humbling for me that I could be that fortunate to be in such space and offer something that is of value to others. And I consider that as guidance. I'm able to guide. I don't think I have any supernatural powers. What I realize is that I've also just learned that if I feel a certain way around someone through these journeys, and I say how I feel, just somehow it happens to be what they're going through. How did I know it? I don't know. It's just a feeling, it's an energy. But what I'm starting to interpret is that I'm slowly starting to be able to convert energy into words. And that's what makes me a little different from some.
Man. And as you learn to teach others how to do that, I mean, everything operates off energy. Everything is a frequency, right? And from my understanding and my belief is that love is the highest frequency, and love is what we call God. That's, the highest elevation there. And for
And it's
me,
also the most dangerous frequency, because, and I tell some people that, some people say, we're getting married. I really love this person. And I always tell them, don't lead with love. It's the highest frequency, but at the same time, it's also sometimes the darkest frequency, right? Because love comes with envy. Love comes with desire. Love comes with jealousy. So I always tell people, you can neutralize those elements with friendship. Because you can have a brother, same mothers, siblings, and they don't know what you do, and your friend knows what you do. They don't know the struggles you're going through, and your friend knows what you're going through. So imagine if your brother was your friend or sister. Imagine if your spouse was your friend. Because if you use love, someone gets a better job, someone gets a better income, they start feeling a certain way about themselves. And you start feeling certain insecurities, because now you think somebody else can come and take it away, because this person now tends to have more value than you. But if you're friends in a relationship, then mostly people try not to hurt their friends. They protect their friends. So then love gets neutralized in that sense. So lead with friendship, love will follow.
lead with friendship, love will follow. Let me say, brother, you mentioned essentially having to compartmentalize your conversation because you have so many different realms that you can go down. And please don't feel constrained in this conversation. Take it wherever you feel you want to take the conversation. That's what the sauce of life is about. So you have all of these realms, ingredients, so to speak, that combine to create the man that is in front of us right now, or appearing on this screen. So you don't need to hide any element of who you are. I strive to be the least judgmental person I know. So don't feel that you need to be an academic. Don't feel that you need to be a spiritual guru or a guide or anything like this. Just be you along this. Because what you just said there is powerful, very powerful. Um, my wife and I had to learn that friendship was more important than the label of marriage or the title that comes along with husband or wife.
100%.
I would rather her call me her best friend than anything else, because you're absolutely right. There would be times in our relationship where jealousy would pop up because her best friends would know something about her that I didn't know, or if she lost a loved one, someone that was very close to her, her friends got to receive that emotional release from her and understand the impact that that person had on her life. Whereas with me, she felt that, or it seemed like she felt that she needed to keep it together, so to speak, you know? But when you're friends, you don't have to keep it together. And this goes to my view of unconditional love. If I love you, Odie, unconditionally, then I accept these various realms that you exist in, even the compartmentalization that you try, like all of you, I have to learn to accept, right? And as you mentioned about, treat your dog right, treat your wife right, treat your kids right, treat the homeless person on the street right, treat the Republicans right, treat the Democrats right, treat the Jews right, treat the Muslims right.
Shalom, shalom,
Yeah.
shalom.
Everybody, man.
We live in a very toxic environment right now. And first, as you know, I also have a background in tech. I'm a tech executive. And we are running the world with algorithms. We're being run by algorithms. And we don't even realize we forgot who we are. Just look at how many times you have to touch your phone. Look at when you go to bed. How far is your phone from your bed? And what do you touch last before you go to bed? If not your phone. And
I
when you
took
wake
my list.
and you wake up in the morning, if let's say you're with someone, you don't say, "Hey, morning, babe," or you say, "Morning," looking at for your kids. No, you look at your phone, then you look for your kids. You look at your phone, you look at your partner, you look at your phone, then you go look at your dog if your dog wants to go pee in the morning or something like that. So that's how much we're being run by algorithms. So we're living in this illusion that it's totally out of control for us. But we believe that everything we're living through is a reality. But what's reality really? Because we're constantly bombarded by this information that there's so much uncertainty, right? So we're living in this sense of anxiety because we're not sure about tomorrow. But at the same time, with news, right? And then at the same time, we're being reminded of our past. And I always tell people there are three forms of existence for the human. One, we live in the past, which we call depression. We live in the future, which we call anxiety. But there's one that we should seek, which is the middle. And what is the middle? In spiritual, other terms, we call it Zen. If you're into economics, we call it equilibrium. And just in bare life or mathematics, it's balance. We need to seek balance, the middle, where we're neither too stressed or too depressed. And how people say, so how do I attain that? I always share, especially in our sanctuary, is that be present and live every present day of your life doing good. Before you know it, every present day is going to be your past. And when you look back after doing good, you've built equity of being good. So good things start to follow you because every day of your life is being good. So your past is no longer depressive or traumatic, it becomes good. But since you believe in good, your future doesn't stress you or cause anxiety to you because it's another opportunity for you to do more good. So you create a cycle of good by being present. So now is more important than yesterday or tomorrow.
Beautiful. See, man, you just mentioned something. So not dismissing anything that you just said, because that stands on its own. And the listeners will be able to go back and play this again and take notes. I'm literally going to go back through this interview and take notes. You mentioned reality versus an algorithm. And the way that you broke that down, um, hopefully people can see how, you are shaped by what's happening in the news. You are shaped by what passes on your phone. What apps are you scrolling through? The number of text messages and emails that you're responding to. And all of that can be controlled as an algorithm. So somebody is literally calculating how your day is going to go. And this is how all these marketing campaigns and all these things happen. But then the kind of the ironic thing is there will be people that listen to me say, I experienced self-love for the first time last year at 43 years old because Dr. Joe Dispenza taught me how to meditate. And in meditation, a being, an entity, whomever it is, told me to take some of the love that I feel for my kids and apply that, my son specifically is what it was, to be accurate, and apply that to my first heartbeats. And in that, I understood that I was at the origin of my first ever trauma, whereby I felt unworthy, which was the observation of an argument that my mom was telling my dad that she was pregnant. And my dad was upset because he felt like he was being trapped. And my mom didn't want to abort. She already had 3 kids, but she felt that this would condemn her to hell if she aborted a baby. Their feeling of unworthiness, I discovered that in meditation, Odie. And then with you, as I said, having that experience where I don't know if that was an ancestor, I don't know what that entity was that walked with me and brought me comfort.
It was definitely ancestral because in the practice that I do, in the rhythm that we go with in Airbnb, it's usually always inviting ancestors. And in our sanctuary, most people that come to our practice, and we have people from all backgrounds, and we invite every religious person to come. We've had ministers' wives, we've had people from different backgrounds, men and women. Our ancestors are always with us. And in our practice, we've learned that most people have been guided by their ancestors. And you see, you have to seek them. That doesn't mean that you can't pray to the good Lord. You can pray to the good Lord, but we also do have a presence that exists with us. And someone told me, like you said, oh, it's witchcraft to think about spirituality. But then we are taught that there's only one spirit and it's the Holy Spirit. But I ask people, why is it you can go into a building somewhere? People say, oh, don't go to that building because it's haunted. What is that? Is there something there really? Or have you been in an experience where, in fact, most people's spiritual incarnation or enlightenment comes when they lose a loved one? Because when you spend time with someone you loved and your spirits get intertwined, or someone who raised you and you lose them, and you always thought if you lost them, your life would be over. Suddenly you go through this journey of pain, grief, and then somehow some people go through that and start reconnecting with these ancestors again. And that's when you really know you're in that path, because now you start realizing they're not really gone. And we deal with a lot of people who go through grief. I lost someone. They think they've lost them. They know you haven't lost. You see, we are energy, and the physical journey is short. We don't create this energy, but we are part. The body is a vessel that carries it. Then it transforms and it continues. And this is what many people fail to understand, that we are just energy. And the physical is just temporary. Some people are so hard on themselves, so hard on their bodies. They try to change their bodies and try to re-engineer their bodies, not knowing this is just a vessel. You need to work in the internal engineering, the spirit. so that when that time comes, you can exit gracefully. Wouldn't it be beautiful to exit just when you sleep? And that is beautiful. And people are so afraid to think of the exit because they always want to stay in their physical form and experience the spirit of the flesh. But the spirit of the flesh is a temporary spirit. You shouldn't be too hard on yourself.
Isn't that in and of itself a observation that people are disconnected from the truth? You mentioned going back. I'm sorry, I spoke too long to get to a question, which is this thing of reality versus an algorithm. What you're saying right now is that people are fighting to exist in the algorithm versus fighting to exist in what is the reality.
Social media. You know, you just said it well. I got into Instagram and YouTube a long time ago, but I never allowed my spirit into it. At a certain point, I used to speak a lot on social media, but what I realized, I'm just dishing out. But then the more you dish out and you don't refuel, you start running empty. So what happens in this illusion of algorithms, it runs you dry and your spirit runs empty. Remember, you can't give what you don't have. So what has happened to many people, they've continued to dish out what they don't have. And so they're now caught up in that illusion of depressive algorithm, which is now determining who you are, and you're forgetting your reality.
Wow.
And that is where it all goes wrong, because we're all dishing out. And that's why I don't speak so much. Really, there's so much pressure for me to speak. You know, I should have my own YouTube channel. I should be speaking more often. But I always prefer that, like we connected last time in LA, that was beautiful. People who come into a program and we tend to share this wisdom. I'm so grateful for that. If it's aligned like today that I have to speak, I pray that my words are blessed with energy, beautiful, beautiful, positive vibes, so that whoever listens to them is nourished through the spirit, so that this can add value into their life and not just any other podcast that they just listen to and they want to skip.
Beautiful. Tell me, you mentioned the body or yes, this physical form as a vessel. You also mentioned that you can't give from something that's empty. You can't give of an empty vessel. How do you refill your vessel? How would you recommend someone refilling their vessel?
You know, honestly, you asked me this question before, but I think we digressed from it. Because you asked me, do I ever get overwhelmed with this situation and how do I separate it? So this is the second time you asked your question. Okay. So now we have to answer it right. Yes, I noted that you did ask it. So for me, one is meditation. I have a good example for why meditation is so important to me, because it picks me up from a place that I feel to be at to another place. It takes me to new places all through my life. I meditate every day in the morning, And meditation is one for me. Two is travel, because most of my travels right now are not more so into big cities. My travels are into little cities, little places that I can go and seek that. I also try to shut down and go up in the mountains. I love the ocean and I love the mountains. So I'll find an island somewhere, a place to go, or a mountainous place to go, like here in Palm Springs. I'm in Palm Springs now. Sometimes I go up in the mountains. We have the Cahulia Indian tribes. There. I'm so fortunate that I've been able to interact with them. In the beginning, it was a little bit suspicious, but now they realize truly we mean well. And I should point this out, that I'm very, very deep into the native culture, into the native tribes, into the First Nation tribes, because I have tremendous respect into the native culture here. And it's a joke, because when I go into this community, they say, you know, Americans like this, Americans like that. And really they talk third party, like the people called Americans. They're not us, they're Americans. So I've come to learn to go into that space and try to experience this energy, indigenous energy of the land, that does not call itself American, but yet I'm as American as it could be, because I am part of that immigration that has made this place America. You understand? So yes. I'll go to spaces like that to refuel myself. I also spend time alone. To me, spending time alone is one of my strengths, and because I can listen to the self, I can listen to the body, I can seek where it's necessary to refuel. Some people are afraid to be by themselves, but if you pick meditation, being alone is always an opportunity to refuel and re-energize yourself. I also seek wisdom, and maybe I should mention this. Since I've been fortunate to go through different paradigms of modern education, I believe I'm reasonably educated. Now, I don't seek education much. I spend most of my time seeking wisdom. Because that I don't have enough. So I tend to spend time or seek for those that I view as wiser or ideas that I'm not familiar with. I'm always seeking to learn. So I'm seeking wisdom more to refuel myself than just modern education.
Man, that hits right there. Seek wisdom, not education. Do you ever have enough wisdom? I mean, there are people that I talk with that are in their 70s and they're looking at life as a child, basically, with an understanding.
I asked that you hold there. So let me say something. So part of the MBA programs that I teach executive leadership. I teach in an engineering school. So I didn't mention that. So I teach in Austria, in Europe, in Austria, Vienna, and Graz. But I'm also now starting to teach in a university in France, in Lyon, France. So mostly my teaching is in Europe. I used to teach in the United States, but mostly I teach in Europe now. So one of the classes that I teach is executive leadership. But part of my education deals with emotional intelligence, because this is, I studied this and used to do a lot of research on emotional intelligence. So it is perceived that age or time comes with wisdom. But certain times, most times, age or time comes along without wisdom. So you should be very careful when you speak about time. How old are you? So when someone asks me how old am I always wonder, what are they seeking? Because to most, time has come without wisdom, but to few, time came with wisdom. That's why you say a 70-year-old acting as a child, that's very normal, because most people, time has passed them by without wisdom. They didn't seek it. So you have to be very careful to take a break, step back, and look deep into yourself. Are you a wise woman or are you a wise man? And what's the value of wisdom in your journey of life? Having a PhD, does that mean something? How does that nourish your life? If you're a physician, for example, have you met some people, like mostly physicians, and this is a big problem with people that have jobs that have a uniform. So you go to school, you graduate, you have a white coat on, and people behave a certain way around you at work. But the moment you take it off, you go to the streets, nobody reacts to you. To some, that degrades who they are.
Right.
But if you're a wise person with that knowledge, then you're able to interact with people and meet them where they are. That's wisdom. And that's what we have to seek, because that's what's lacking.
That applies in so many areas, brother. You know this, being in the military, there's a lot of people that get ready to take that uniform off and they don't know how to, because their entire identity is as a soldier or as a Marine or as an airman.
Roger that.
Wow.
Roger that.
Man, this is, brother, I appreciate more than I can say that you actually came on here, and the pearls that you're dropping, the wisdom that you're dropping out there. I try to keep these interviews around 45 minutes to be respectful of people's time, yours specifically. But I want to ask you, well, first, it's like I have Odie here. What's the right question to ask Odie?
The spirit will bring you the questions, because this in itself is already a healing experience for us. Trust me, there's someone watching this. Just something that we spoke about is affecting or touching their lives, and they may be struggling with it. So this is why I like to have such type of conversation, because it's more of the spirit taking over this conversation. We are not trying to say who is educated or are you a guru, are you that? No. We're just sharing wisdom. And through that, intrinsically, it brings, I call it thought-provoking questions within the self. And that's the goal of such conversation.
I appreciate that, because I find that the most impactful interviews that I've ever done have always been ones where I forget the questions. I don't care about the questions, and we just connect with who's in front of me as if nobody else is here. And it's just you and I having a conversation. And people seem to gain more knowledge from that because it's a more authentic interaction versus trying to have a structured interview, so to speak.
I don't like structure either.
It's an algorithm.
It's exactly. Exactly. That's what it is. I want to point out something that I've been dealing with lately. And maybe there's someone who's going to listen to this and struggling and going through this. I don't drink alcohol. I've never drank alcohol. I've never tasted alcohol. And this is because I started this journey so early. And people ask me, why haven't you drank? First, my parents used to tell me not to drink. So I figured, first, discipline is the most important thing. You have to be disciplined. You have to, one, listen to your elders. Hopefully you have elders who mean well, because there's some people who have bad experiences with their elders. They didn't guide them or they abused them. And that's bad. But if you're lucky to have had elders, and when I say elders, it doesn't mean it has to be your dad and mom. It could be someone you adopted. It's just someone who became that person for you in life. You have to listen to them. And I'm huge on discipline. I'm a disciplined person, and not fear, discipline. And so through meditation, I learned to pursue those things that I viewed positive in my existence in life. So if you're struggling with something, lately with people struggling with substance abuse, or you're trying to stop something in your life, find time to spend with yourself and let the universe heal you. Dig deep into yourself. Healing is within you. It's not in those medications you're being given. It's in you. The medications that they just numb it. Remember, you can cure from medication, but you don't heal from medication. Medication don't heal you. Medication cures you. You have to seek spiritual enlightenment and spiritual healing if you want to heal. But if you want to be cured, you can continue taking your medication. And even after cured, you might seek healing. I just want to share that because that talks about discipline, meditation, and overcoming.
There's a friend of mine who's one of the most disciplined people that I know, that we just talked yesterday, and he's struggling with substance.
See.
And I want to make sure, I'm not going to mention his name or say any more identifying things, but he's going to watch this, and I want to make sure that he understands that this message came directly from you, and you and I didn't talk or discuss this at all. But I'm telling you, just listening to the way that the last words that came out of your mouth there, you're going to speak directly to that man's soul.
Blessings. Thank you.
It demonstrates this power that you're talking about, that ability to connect. Odie, where can people connect with you?
Wow, good. So at a spiritual level, I have Island Tribe Wellness. Island Tribe Wellness is a beautiful community based out of Palm Springs, California. We have a sanctuary here. We have a studio here. We share wisdom. If you want to experience what our brother Derek experienced, which is our breathwork techniques and our healing techniques that we have, you're more than welcome to visit us in Palm Springs. You can go online, islandtribewellness.com, and you can find more into what we do. We're thinking now of maybe coming up with a breathwork academy, because more and more people are asking. I have some physicians that would like to find some literature about this, because part of what we do also involves a lot of psychosomatic healing. But yes, it's a little bit scientific, but mostly spiritual. So we are planning to come with an academy that can help more people. So you have to come here, get certified, then you can go online and recertify. So you can find me at Island Tribe Wellness. I also am on Instagram actually as Nomadic Odero Vibrations. It's not a big platform. Most people that are following are actually those that we've experienced such energy together. And I know it rather grows with the people who know what they're seeking than just groupies that don't know which path to go, you know? And yes, I think I don't want to touch into like my other work, like fashion and stuff like that. Island Tribe USA is a fashion brand. I'm also a fashion designer for, you know, those who are into fashion and you're also listening to wellness. Most of our fashion is actually targeted as a healing type experience. Our clothing are made to help elevate your energy. We are using mostly only organic fabrics, a sustainable fabric. So Island Tribe USA is our fashion brand. Island Tribe Wellness is our wellness brand. And now we're even getting into superfoods. We introduced sea moss, we have cacao, and we have all this. So if you're doing cacao ceremonies out there and you're seeking to buy or, you know, source some cacao, ceremonial grade cacao, you're welcome to Island Tribe Wellness. We have good stuff. So just Island Tribe Wellness, and you can also send me an email or just a message, a DM, and or maybe through my brother Derek, who I love so much, and we've never had much time to speak. I don't know, here and there we try to drop messages of love. Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final question is, well, first, before I give the final question, I just want you to know that I do want to work with you because I'm starting to work with prison reentry, and I want to have a conversation with you offline about rewiring the
integration.
Yes. Because a lot of people are institutionalized. A lot of people have their identity is associated with being a felon or being a criminal or being a convict, whatever that is. And I feel that you're one of those people uniquely suited to get them to understand that at their core, they're a human, no different than any other human that has existed. And that this sack of this vessel,
the labeling that has taken place so that they've lost contact with the vessel. Yes.
So I want to discuss that with you. But sorry, final question will be this. If this were the last time that you and I spoke, or this is the only time that someone from my audience gets to hear you speak, what would you want us to walk away with?
Oh, goodness. Hopefully you listened to this podcast because we shared quite a few gems. And what I think people are struggling with right now is happiness and joy. I'd like that you understand that happiness can be found through things that you see and touch. You can buy a nice car and you're happy. You can buy a nice home and you're happy. You can marry or date a beautiful person and you're happy. But that's not joy. Seek joy before you seek happiness. Joy is the intrinsic light that shines from within the self, that is fueled from within the self. With or without money, you are a joyous person. When you gain joy, then happiness can come and go, but it'll never shake your joy. You need to seek joy before you seek happiness. And joy is a feeling. You can't touch it. You just have to tap into it.
Brother.
Blessings.
Brother. Blessings. Thank you for your testimony.
Love you, brother. And love to all the Source of Life community. Brother Derek is a wonderful brother. I'm very happy for our paths to have crossed. And please, I hope that we'll have more of this. And this is not the last time. He said, if this is the last time, I think we're going to have another time. The Spirit tells me so. We'll have another targeted time. So please listen, reach out to my brother. And if you want to reach out to me, again, you probably got the message that I gave about how to reach out to me. But for now, I wish you the best of luck. Live life, seek joy, and happiness will follow.
Thank you, Odero. Bye.
Blessings.